Hi, I'm Matt. I'm a guitar player and worship leader and audio engineer, and we have to talk about DI boxes and line isolators. It is out of control out there right now with misinformation on this. I realize these are things that like normal, ordinary people are not probably arguing about, but in the forums where I hang out, church players and these sorts of things are really targeted at. People are making claims that don't make any sense, and it's just fully off the rails. So I'm not maybe like the expert that should be addressing this, but somebody has to talk about this. It is so weird. If you're not up to date on all of these debates, and God bless you if you're not, because I feel like a lunatic. For decades, I could have looked up probably the year the DI box was invented, but I mean 40, 50, 60 years or something. We've all been using this. You need to plug an instrument directly into a soundboard. You grab one of these. It's a DI box. You plug your instrument or whatever into this end. You plug a mic cable into this end. You're good to go. So what a DI box is doing is it's taking a line level signal and dropping it down to mic level, which is what most boards are expecting to receive, because normally you're plugging mics into them. And it takes in the past, it would have usually been like a keyboard or a bass or something that would be using this. It takes your keyboard or your bass or whatever, drops it down to the signal a board thinks it's going to get, and you're good to go. The advantages, the reason you would use this and not plug straight into the board somehow are, for one thing, every soundboard I ever deal with needs XLR cables, the microphone ones, and most keyboards or bass guitars or whatever are using an instrument jack. So it's a cable mismatch. You'd have to order some kind of custom cable. But even assuming you did bother to order some kind of custom cable, the reason you don't do that usually is if it's a long cable run, if the board is, 30 feet away or something, that's a lot of opportunity for noise to get introduced into your signal. And turning it into a balanced signal and sending it through this negates that. And then it brings it back up on the board end. Everything's fine. So lower noise, correct cable hookups. If phantom power gets turned on at the board, it won't fry whatever's over here if it really doesn't want to receive phantom power. Those are kind of the big three advantages to a DI. This is what we've always done, all of us always. This is what sound engineers use. Recently, I don't have a Pinstripe DSO Plus. They feel like they're kind of the forerunners of this whole movement, and I have to give them props for that. As far as I can tell, like almost the first company that's seen this market and realized there's like a missing opportunity here, and so they kind of hopped on it. What Pinstripe came up with was a DI box-like object, but it's a line isolator. And their reasoning for that is a DI box is lowering your signal to mic level, sending it over, and then at the board, they're raising it back up again. And Pinstripe reasoned, what if you just sent the line level signal at line level and it hit the board super hot, and then you wouldn't need to raise it back up again at the soundboard? That's, it's cutting out a middleman kind of. And when you put it like that, it does sound intuitive. It's like, why are we stepping the signal down and then raising it back up again when you could just send it straight? All of that makes sense. I don't have any issue with that line of reasoning. What you're still getting are the other advantages of a DI box. It's protecting you from phantom power. It's creating a balanced signal so that lower noise between you and the board. The other things a DI box would do, it's still doing for you. So it's better than just using a cable or something. But you're taking out that part where the signal changes volumes and then comes back up. So that's what a line isolator is supposed to be for. It's like a DI box that doesn't actually convert to mic level. The second one that I'm aware of, again, maybe I'm missing something, but it seems like the second company to ever jump into this market was Walrus with the Canvas. And this is the one that I have. So Walrus saw, presumably the same hole in the market that Pinstripe saw, and they came out with the Canvas. And the hole in the market that I keep referring to is a lot of guitar players are now playing modelers. Strymon Iridium is what I use. There's the atomic amplifier. There's all the various Line 6 Helix stuff. Walrus came out with the ACS1. There's all these different amp modeler boxes now. And so increasingly guitar players are needing to use a DI or a line isolator, whereas before that would have never been a thing. The guitar goes into an amp and it's not worrying about this. In the past, DI boxes were kind of for keyboards and basses. Now guitar players need them, but people are starting to wonder, is there a better product for guitar players? So that's the hole in the market, so to speak. Pinstripe jumped on it a while later. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised how long Pinstripe had like a complete monopoly on this idea. Finally, another company looked up and was like, we should be doing this. So Walrus came out with the Canvas. I don't know anything about how these companies make decisions, by the way. I'm imparting like a line of reasoning here, but they came out with the Canvas because they make one of the amp modelers. They make the ACS1. And so this is supposed to be kind of like paired with that. But of course, it works with any of them. And this is also a line isolator or a DI box. It's switchable. So that's why I grabbed this one, is just because sometimes I only need a DI, and I like the versatility of having it be either one based on this button right here. You plug your guitar into this, mic cable comes out. So if you have it in DI mode, it's doing what this is doing, sending a mic level signal, getting raised up again. If you have it in line isolator mode, it's sending the full hot signal that's coming straight out of your guitar, and the board is not having to raise it up again. It just hits. Probably they have to lower it. It hits super hot. So that's what these are. Everything I've said until now, and I mean, I'm not an expert on this stuff, so if I've made a factual error, let me know. But everything I've said until now is just like bare facts. It's like that's what it's doing. Where the weird sort of opinionated misinformation strangeness has come in is there are so many guitar players in the forums that I am active in who are like, you know, I got a Pinstripe, and it's not just that it's louder, like the tone is better and it's making my guitar better and it's my effects sound better and the EQ profile's different. And I'm like, none of that stuff should be the case. Like everything's made with different components, and maybe there's some difference there. They use very high quality transformers in those things. Maybe that makes a difference, but people are describing it like it sounds like a whole different guitar. Like they're like, it's a completely changed everything about my sound. I sound like a better player now. Girls find me more attractive. Like it's crazy the claims people are making about a box that works a little bit differently. And so I did order this one. I needed a DI box anyway, so I was like, why don't I get the one that can be either? And then we'll find out if there's anything to this whole cult-like mentality. So I wanted to just kind of sit down, plug these in, and see what happened. This is not a highly scientific experiment, but I am going to attempt to... Well, I guess first I'll play them each without trying to level match them, and we can see how big the difference between mic level and line level actually is, because that's kind of why these exist in the first place, is to get around that difference. So let's find out about that. But then going forward, I think I will attempt to level match them, and then we can just hear if they actually sound different as opposed to just being louder, because it's a pretty well-known audio maxim that louder is better. And even if you know that and you're trying to correct for it in your head, you hear two things, and the one that's louder, you're like, well, that sounds really good. So I'm going to try to level match them and get around the louder is better auditory phenomenon and see if we can detect an actual difference between these two things just based on how they sound. My assumption would be no, but I'm prepared to be proven wrong. Let's see. Okay, here goes. I'm plugged into the Radial right now, which is just a totally normal DI box. It's a very high quality DI box, but it's a normal DI box. So this is the level that I'm getting with the input gain on my preamps at like 9 o'clock. So it's pretty low over there. So that's fairly quiet. Let's switch to the other one. Okay, this is the line isolator. Substantially louder. It's not marketing copy that those are different levels. It's a lot louder. So that's great. I mean, certainly not a problem. Out of curiosity, here's the DI button on the Canvas, making it be a normal DI. So yeah, that sounds more or less like the Radial does. It's not hype that line level is a lot hotter than mic level. But the thing about that is, it isn't really your job to be hotter going into the soundboard. It's the sound person's job to deal with input levels. So I feel like the piece of the puzzle people are missing here is that it shouldn't matter how hot you come into the board. That's what input gain knobs are for. And if your board is not terrible, it should have more than enough gain on tap to bring you up to the level you need to be at. So like this shouldn't be an issue for live sound unless they actually sound different in some way. So that's what I want to test next. Clearly there is a level difference, but for decades upon decades, sound people have just been turning up the input gain and it's been a-okay. So like that by itself doesn't strike me as a big reason to use these. But if they sound better too, then I mean, it's a no-brainer. So let's test that. I'm going to try level matching them more closely. So that's a huge level difference. I had to turn the input gain on my audio interface over here from like 9 o'clock to noon to try and get them closer to each other. But now that they are, I'm just going to play some stuff and switch back and forth between them. Okay, so I went into this thing kind of fiery, but I also said I was open to being proven wrong. I'm liking the canvas more right now, and I'll be the first to admit that could be user error if I have not perfectly gain matched them over here, which I suspect is the case, but it does sound good. It does maybe sound better. I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to put the canvas back into DI mode and try them just kind of head-to-head both as DIs and see if there's a sound difference, because for whatever reason right now I am liking the canvas a bit more. Let's try them both in DI mode and see if there's any audible difference. Okay, they're both DIs right now. I have both of their input gains at noon on the interface, so theoretically they're on like level playing ground at this point. Here's the radial. I am perplexed. They do sound different. So anyway, that was a highly unscientific test of these two DI boxes, one of which is also a line isolator. A point that might be worth mentioning in this whole debate about sending a hotter signal to the soundboard is that it is hard to overstate how much more prevalent DIs are right now. Until like a month ago, there was one company making a line isolator like this, and now there are two companies making one, but there are 100 billion DI boxes floating out there in the world. So if you are using a line isolator, and after this test just now, I'm kind of thinking that's what I'm going to do, you're going to need to touch base with any sound guy or girl or person at the place that you're playing, because that's not what they're going to be expecting. And when I kicked it from DI to line isolator just now, I like clipped the input and hurt my ears. It's a huge level difference. You've got to coordinate with your sound professional and let them know you're sending a line level signal and to adjust the input gains and stuff accordingly. If you play a lot of different places and you're always traveling around, that almost might be an argument in favor of just going the DI route, because it is what most places are going to be set up for. But if you play at one church like I do, and it's basically always at the same place, I can just set up the input of the board to expect the line level signal and I'll be good to go. So all other things being equal, I'm liking the line isolator more. I don't know what to attribute that to, other than maybe I'm just buying into the hype now as well. But something about the part differences or the line level versus mic level differences, even when trying to match the gain levels to account for that, I am liking the sound of it better. So maybe there's something to this after all. Like I said, there's really only two out there right now that I'm aware of. There's the Walrus Canvas and there's the Pinstripe. The DSO is their stereo one, or the MISO is their mono one. Maybe check one of those things out if this is interesting to you. I apologize if I came in hot at the beginning. I do feel like there's still a lot of misinformation out there about this. But having now shot them out head to head, I am preferring the Canvas. So hope any of that's helpful. This is all some real nerdy stuff to be arguing about, but choose whatever works for you. Thanks for watching. Hello. If you've been around the channel for a while, you might notice that I just changed the name of it after about 8 years of it just being my name. The reason for that is I've started a business called Walrus Audio. It's going to be recording, mixing, song production, session playing, anything in that area. Don't expect the focus of this channel to change at all. It's still going to be, guitar pedals, gear demos, music production stuff, guitar walkthroughs, the things I normally do around here. But because of the business, I'm trying to standardize my handles all across the internet. So that's what that's about. While I'm talking about it, if you're in the Phoenix area and you need any recording done on music or a podcast or anything like that, hit me up. If you're not local, but you want anything mixed, session playing done, a song produced for a channel or a podcast or something that you're doing, anything that I can do remotely, feel free to hit me up on that too if you're not nearby. So the website's lefeversaudio.com. It'll be linked around here. Otherwise, don't expect any big changes to the channel, but that's what's up with the name update. Thanks for watching.